Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. A warm welcome to joining our today's seminars hosted by our few key organizers, including the Hong Kong Academy of Finance, AoF, Hong Kong Institute of Monetary and Financial Research, HKIMR, Alternative Investment Management Association, AIMA, and CFA Institute Research and Policy Center. My name is Brenda Howe. I'm the head of the Global Partnership and Client Solutions for Growth Markets in CFA Institute. Welcome, I'm your MC today. Talent is an essential asset in the financial services industry. However, in recent years, it is becoming increasingly evident that the industry is grappling with numerous talent-related challenges on a global scale. Today's seminar aims to provide you with a thorough understanding of the current global talent trend, the effect on the financial industry, and the effective strategies for talent management, as reflected in the themes of today's seminar. The seminars will include a concise presentation of a report on talent development, recently published by HKIMR. The findings in this report will be the cornerstones for the subsequent panel discussion. Furthermore, there will be a Q&A sessions where our panelists will respond to your questions. And I encourage you to submit through your online on your device as we progress. Remote participants online will find the question submission box on your screens, while the on-site participant can log into the question suggestion page using the QR code and password provided in front of you. Before we dive into the report and the panel discussions today, it's now my honor to introduce our distinguished guest, Ms. Amanda Chan, who will be delivering our opening remarks for this seminar. Ms. Chan served as the Deputy Secretary, Financial Services of the Financial Services and the Treasury Bureau of the Hong Kong Special Administrative Region Government. She oversees policies of the financial services with a portfolio covering policies and legislations related to the securities and future markets, financial infrastructure, banking and monetary matters, as well as financial market development. Ms. Chen has rich experience in public administration involving diverse policy areas, including rehabilitation, narcotics, and commerce and economic development. Her insights are particularly valuable as we explore the themes of talent development in the financial services today. Without further ado, please join me in welcoming Ms. Amanda Chan to the stage. Ms. Chan, the floor is yours.
Mr. Fong, Mr. Moody, Mr. Lee, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. It is my pleasure to be here today to join this seminar on talent development. First, I would like to thank the Hong Kong Institute of Monetary Research, Alternative Investment Management Association, and the CFA Institute for organizing this seminar. I am so honored to meet with a diverse and dynamic group of professionals on this occasion to discuss one of the most crucial aspects of the financial services industry, which is nurturing and the development of talents. Talent is the prime resource. This is the fundamental driving force that underpins the development of our economy and various sectors. This is especially true in the financial sector, which has always been quick and agile in embracing new technologies such as big data, AI and blockchain, and also in adapting to global trends and challenges, as seen in the rapid development of green and sustainable finance over the past few years. All this imply that the industry will require an increasingly skilled and adaptive workforce. This also means that the development, attraction, and retention of talents will be one of the most crucial aspects for the continued success of any financial center. Benefiting from our long-standing position as a leading international financial center, Hong Kong has been able to build a wide and diversified pool of the financial sector talents over the years. However, with the competition for talents becoming more intense, it is imperative that we continue to invest in the development of our workforce to ensure the sustained success of our financial sector. And in this background, I would like to share with you some of the important work that we have been doing in fostering talent development. From the angle of strategic planning, it is crucial that we have a systematic and thorough understanding of the talent needs and gaps of the financial sector. In this regard, as announced in the 2022 policy address, the government has commenced a new round of overall manpower planning and projections, this time with an enhanced methodology to provide more detailed information on forecasting the manpower needs in the financial sector and other key industries driving Hong Kong's economic growth. Complementing this, the HKIMR has also been engaged in projects studying the talent needs of the sector. In this regard, I'm sure that many of you have read the report, Advancing Talent Development in Financial Services, Emerging Global Trends and the Impact on Hong Kong, that the IMR published last December, which analyzed major global trends in financial services and the implications on talent development, as well as surveyed the talent profile, talent gap, and talent development measures in other major financial centers. The report, which we are glad to hear that has been well received, has facilitated the government, regulators, and the sector to develop a much more thorough and systematic view of the risks and opportunities we are facing, not only at a high level, but down to nuances such as specific skill sets and experience levels required. Approaching the issue of talent development systematically means that we also need proper frameworks to guide the training and upskilling efforts of both the government and the sector. To achieve this, we have been working with the industry in the development of knowledge and competency frameworks. As the start, the Hong Kong Monetary Authority, in collaboration with the sector, has established the enhanced competency framework for the banking sector, which provides an accreditation route for banking-related learning opportunities and programs, and serve to ensure the quality and relevance of the training programs. In a similar vein, we have established, under the government's qualifications framework, FinTech professional qualifications for banking practitioners. To take this initiative one step further, we are now moving on to the FinTech qualification framework for practitioners in the securities and insurance sectors, with a consultancy study commissioned for the task. Our work does not stop at the planning level. Through a wide spectrum of financial incentives, professional development, and internship programs, the government has been directly involved in the nurturing, reskilling, and upskilling of our financial sector talents. As an example, we have launched a pilot program to enhance talent training for the insurance sector and the asset wealth management sector, which has so far helped enrich the practical experience of over 1,200 tertiary students through the internship placements, as well as offer funding support to nearly 20,000 applications from insurance and asset management professionals in respect of their continued training. Apart from initiatives that focus on different financial services segments, we have also implemented tailored measures to enable our professionals to meet the demands of major trends in the financial world. As an illustration, realizing the growing potential of green and sustainable finance, we have established the Pilot Green and Sustainable Finance Capacity Building Support Scheme, which is open for application by market practitioners and related professionals, as well as students and graduates of relevant disciplines, where successful applicants can receive allowances upon completion of eligible programs. This helps create motivation for finance professionals to develop their expertise in green and sustainable finance, which is crucial to upscaling industry development to a new altitude. For the younger generation, we have been empowering students in Hong Kong to gain hands-on experience in green and sustainable finance by launching the Sustainable Finance Internship Initiative. In addition, we have set up the Center for Green and Sustainable Finance as a cross-sector repository for resources, data, and analytics, which not only helps the ESG policy development, but more importantly, serve as a knowledge node for talent and capacity development for those involved in or interested in pursuing developments in green and sustainable finance. FinTech is another prime example of our talent development efforts. Apart from FinTech-related talent frameworks, which I've mentioned earlier, we have put in place a host of measures aimed at grooming our younger generation and better equipping our existing professionals. For the younger generation, we provide opportunities for post-secondary students to gain first-hand understanding of the operation of fintech companies and fintech ecosystem of Hong Kong in the mainland by establishing an internship program in the Greater Bay Area. And for financial practitioners, we launched the Financial Practitioners Fintech Training Program, which provided online training and subsidized sector-specific training on the technology fund. For the program was well received by the industry in Hong Kong, where over 7,000 financial practitioners from the banking, insurance, securities, and MPF sectors had acquired more in-depth insights into the application of financial technological solutions. Apart from cultivating our own talents, we also spare no effort in attracting professionals with diverse expertise and experiences from all over the world, notably through the Top Talent Pass scheme, which has received enthusiastic responses since its launch in end 2022. As of end February this year, over 72,000 applications were received, with nearly 59,000 approved, and around 44,000 talents having arrived in Hong Kong. Based on the result of a follow-up survey of successful applicants who have come to Hong Kong for more than 6 months, it is estimated that the scheme will contribute directly to Hong Kong's economy by some $34 billion every year, which is equivalent to about 1.2% of our GDP. What's more, the Hong Kong Talent Engage online platform also helps strategize recruitment and support for external talents. These initiatives seeking to augment the talent base in Hong Kong demonstrate Hong Kong as an open, embracing, and vibrant metropolitan, further exemplifying its status as an international financial center. Dear friends, the government is forward-looking and responsive in this evolving world. We have developed a clear vision for talent development for the financial services sector, with a focus on nurturing a skilled workforce and promoting innovation. Going forward, we will continue to drive growth and sustainability and bolster Hong Kong's competitiveness as a global financial hub through broadening and deepening our talent pool. Once again, thanks to the Hong Kong Institute of Monetary Research for organizing this meaningful seminar. I'm sure you'll enjoy and benefit from the insightful and interactive exchange of views. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Chen, for your enlightening opening remarks. Now let's transition to the next sessions of today's seminar. I'm very pleased to welcome Dr. Giorgio Valente, head of the HKIMR, to the stage to share with us the recent research that they have conducted regarding the global talent landscape in financial services. Let's welcome Dr. Valente to the stage.
So thank you, Brenda, for the kind introduction. Ms. Chen, distinguished panelists, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. So before I delve into the results of our report, that is going to be a brief summary of what we already published in our recent research in order to inform the discussion that will follow later, allow me to spend a few words to briefly introduce the Hong Kong Institute for Monetary and Financial Research to the ones of you that may be less familiar with our operations. So the Hong Kong Institute for Monetary and Financial Research was established by the Hong Kong Monetary Authority in 1999 in the aftermath of the Asian financial crisis and was mandated to carry out long-term research on monetary and financial stability with a focus on and relevance to Hong Kong and the region. After 20 years of operations, and with the establishment of the Hong Kong Academy of Finance in 2019, the Hong Kong Institute for Monetary and Financial Research has become the research arm of the Academy, with the mission of being the repository of knowledge in monetary and financial research, including applied research. Over the past 5 years, the HKIMR has been working solidly on applied research, and we published 12 reports on strategically relevant topics, including financial innovation and fintech in financial services, green and sustainable finance, and developments in financial markets of the mainland of China. Today, my presentation will focus on our last report that will deal with talent development in financial services. Why about this specific topic? Obviously, we've been already listening to the opening remarks, and we know that talent development is crucial to the development of any jurisdiction, and especially international financial centers. But even our research in everything we covered over the last 12 reports pointed out that talent development is key in supporting all strategic areas of interest, and therefore maintaining and enhancing the standing of any international financial center, including Hong Kong. In our report, we explore emerging global trends in the market for talent in financial services. We gauge broad market views and explore granular data to highlight opportunities and prospects for talent attraction, retention in Hong Kong internationally. Propose also some consideration to further advance talent development in Hong Kong. So we have prepared our report in collaboration with the CFA Institute, a researcher at the Hong Kong University of Science and Technology Business School, and an independent consultant in order to carry out 2 surveys and a statistical study of granular data from LinkedIn online job profiles. One of the surveys is aimed at gauging market perspective involved more than 1,200 professionals across major IFCs, and the statistical study investigated more than 1.6 million LinkedIn online profiles across major IFCs. Our report shows that 3 major, I would say, macro trends responsible for having a big impact on the dynamics of the talent market worldwide. First of all, the shrinking labor force that has been occurring over time, and even more pronouncedly after 2019, shifting employer priorities, and evolving skills in roles in financial services. So let me try to go a little bit more in detail. But I want to specify that those trends are affecting all international financial centers, not only Hong Kong, and in all jurisdictions. So going deeper in our results, the first message that I want to leave you with is in terms of shrinking labor force, our survey suggests that demographic changes and fading interest in financial services roles seems to be 2 key drivers for driving the global talent shortage. And you can see the numbers that we have seen here across different jurisdictions, across different international financial centers in our work are pretty high. These findings are also coupled with distinct post-pandemic employment trends due to shifting employee priorities. For example, the phenomenon of great resignation or quiet quitting. And in other jurisdictions, the changes brought about the introduction of remote and hybrid working modes have highlighted the survey responses, the prevalence of these trends across all jurisdictions. They lead to performance misalignments and lower engagement in financial roles. Finally, the third trend that I would like to highlight is specifically related to a mismatch between demand and supply of specific roles in financial services due to financial innovation in financial services, ESG developments, and in general fast evolving skill requirements for those specific roles. For example, in our study, we actually report in our research that looking at LinkedIn profiles, and we try to match the difference between the demand and supply for those specific online roles for several specific positions. So you can see in operation management, banking, and also analytical skills, there is a very large, non-negligible, unfilled demand for online vacancies. I want to add to these 3 major macro trends something that probably has been under your radar very recently, especially if we look at the emergence of AI, especially generative AI, in financial services. And so what we did in our research, also to try to understand the perceived impact of AI employment and adoption in financial services to existing employees. And we try to understand whether or not the existing manpower in financial services is thinking of those developments as a threat or an opportunity. So as we can see from the results we have here, very vast majority is actually highlighting that they have very little or no concerns of these developments for their own roles. Especially, they don't feel that there is a major threat of those roles being replaced by machines within the next 5 years. So by digging deeper a little bit and looking at the behavior of individuals and also firms with regard to those developments, we can see that individuals are indeed developing AI and other technical skills in order to be relevant in those roles, even in the presence of AI adoption. At the same time, individuals in employment are also understanding that in order to beat the machines, allow me to quote this, they had to develop soft skills in order to be relevant. It's a combination of understanding of hard skills and soft skills that will make the relevant workforce to stay relevant even in those, with those developments. On the firm side, you can see that there is a clear understanding from companies that they are going to invest in technology, especially AI and data analytics, in order to basically foster automation for very mechanical roles and obviously specific tasks. There is also a tendency within the companies to provide reskilling and upskilling opportunities for existing employees in order to make sure that their roles are going to be relevant even within the organizations. And also there is a relevance in order to enhance cross-functional collaboration across different lines within the same organization. So overall, the picture that we portray is that AI is an important phenomenon that seems to be embraced by the financial services industry, not only in Hong Kong, but across the world. But at the same time, we can see that employees are also understanding the relevance. So they're embracing it, and they're trying to make sure that those are skill sets to be developed going forward. So let me move on now in understanding what we did in addition to our identification of major macro trends, both on the social demographic side and on the technical side. So what we did is to essentially discuss with a panel of HR leaders in Hong Kong. And we tried to understand via commission survey and interviews with a panel of HR leaders, essentially C-suite executives or regional and global heads of HR in Hong Kong, what were their perspectives regarding the talent landscape in Hong Kong. Obviously, in this case, we are looking at a very wide set of industry segments that they are reported in here, including commercial banks, family offices, investment banks, executive search firms, and so on and so forth. So the first thing we saw is we tried to ask this panel of experts about their understanding and their view or what are the major factors that they actually make a specific choice for aspiring talent to be in a specific international financial center. And you can see here that in addition to compensation and quality of life, there are other aspects that are important, for example, corporate culture and industry and corporate reputation, but also an aspect that I would like to highlight later on, because it's about career development opportunities, and this is particularly relevant for Hong Kong. So in terms of skill set sought by employers, our panel of HR leaders pointed out that obviously there are a combination of relevant skill set that are required in this environment. First of all, industry knowledge, and this is something that we are considering not only for intermediate and senior roles, but somehow also at the junior level. And then we have a combination of technical hard skills, analytical skills and creativity and technical skills, but also soft skills, as I pointed out before, looking at communication skills, leadership, and adaptability and growth mindset. Those are extremely important for aspiring talent in order to basically being employed, especially in Hong Kong. Our research also looked at, the perspective that this panel of HR leaders had about the situation of Hong Kong and understanding how relevant is and how important is Hong Kong in terms of attract talent from overseas. And apparently the view that we have here is that despite existing challenges related mostly to cost of living, housing, or international school places, Hong Kong exhibits substantial advantages. And those are related to legal and regulatory environment, infrastructure, location, and global connectivity. And if you think about what I was saying about possibility and opportunity for further development or career development, those are key aspects that aspiring talent can weigh in order to decide whether or not to join Hong Kong and stay in Hong Kong for the contribution to the local financial services industry. So another thing that I want to highlight before I come to the last part of my presentation is to show some information from the analysis of the granular profile on LinkedIn that I was mentioning at the beginning of this presentation. And what we did, we tried to consider the attitude of the local workforce in order to understand how much investment in new specific skills the local workforce is doing against peers in other international financial centers. And you can see for relevant specific skill set, you think about customer service experience, engineering, machine learning and programming, so the technical skills if you wish. You can see that the percentage of investment in those specific skills is much higher in Hong Kong compared to other jurisdictions in general. And this is an indication that the local workforce, first of all, is aware of the existing challenges and at the same time is proactive in order to make changes that can be suitable for the specific circumstances in the international financial center. So let me try now to turn to the final part of the presentation where we are looking at the regulatory developments. So what we did in our report, and it was also mentioned in the opening remarks, is to look at the different regulatory experiences in terms of talent development policies. And what we did there is to try to understand what are the major themes across different jurisdictions in terms of talent development. And what we did there is to highlight these 4 major themes that occurred over time in different jurisdictions internationally. And we see that providing skill information, facilitating admission of external talent, reskilling and upskilling practitioners, and developing fintech talent pipeline were somehow put in place or by different jurisdictions at different point in time because of their specificities. So what we did also in our report is to understand what locally has been done. And obviously we had already a presentation during the opening remarks where some of these initiatives were mentioned, but you can see that we have a very clear understanding that those themes have been somehow addressed by the government and the local regulators in order to foster talent development in Hong Kong. For example, a set of common and transparent competency standards were actually mentioned previously, the admission schemes for graduates and high earners in in-demand talent, so you think about the top talent pass scheme, and also you have initiative targeting current and prospective practitioners. And here I'm glad to also refer to the Hong Kong Academy of Finance Financial Leaders Program that is indeed providing opportunities for reskilling and upskilling, if we can quote it that way, for future leaders in Hong Kong and in financial services industry in Hong Kong. And finally, the collaboration across sectors and geographies, which are a major strength for Hong Kong. And I will get back to that point just in a minute before concluding my presentation. Now, the consideration that we have in our report, and that concludes my presentation, is basically trying to provide you with food for thought regarding the 3 major phenomena that we were discussing at the very beginning of this presentation. So we were saying that globally, all international financial centers were actually experiencing talent shortage, a change in employee priorities, and an evolving set of skill requirements because of the fact that I was actually showing at the beginning of the presentation. In our report, we have a set of specific considerations that may further enhance or improve talent development. So here we are looking at, for example, attracting external talent, developing a local talent byline in order to address the issue of talent shortage, fostering a supporting environment in order to basically align with the new employee priorities, upskilling and reskilling practitioners both in employment and aspiring talent in order to allow the skill requirements to be matched with the requirement of the industry at that specific point in time. So let me be a little bit more precise. In our recommendation, or in our considerations actually, what we are looking at, in order to attract external talents for any international financial center, and in particular in Hong Kong, it's very important to articulate a unique value proposition. And that's something that is very clear and is important. Secondly, it's important to consider the developing the local talent pipeline, because in one case, we are considering the attraction of external talent, but it's important to consider local talent as well. And here we are looking at the talent in employment and future aspiring talent, for example, graduate students. And it's important to equip students with future-proof skills to enhance their employability from day one. And that's something that is important to take that into account. It's also relevant to have supportive policies that encourage welcoming and corporate and social environment for motivating and retaining employees. Finally, two considerations that are very specific, first of all to Hong Kong, regarding fostering a fintech ecosystem and deepening international and regional cooperation. Those are specific because of the characteristic and the strengths of Hong Kong. So it's important to consider that given the vibrancy of the fintech ecosystem, it's important to continue investing in that direction. And the other aspect is the unique position of Hong Kong as a super connector between the mainland of China and international markets, especially with regard to the opportunities that they are provided in terms of developments in the Greater Bay Area and the mainland of China in general. So one thing that I want to highlight before concluding the presentation is also the first point about upskilling and reskilling. And I think there will be opportunities perhaps in the discussion as well that follows, because in order to basically reap the benefits of upskilling and reskilling, current employees have to understand that there is a value assigned to professional development. And that has to be considered as an investment that yields returns. So it's a consistent activity that has to be put in place in order to keep the strengths and skills current and really suitable for the current specific developments. So I end my presentation here. I would like to thank you for your attention and look forward to learn from the industry aspect in the next panel session. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Bernate, and this is so insightful and also lay a perfect groundwork for our upcoming panel discussions. So first of all, I'm very happy to introduce the moderators of the panel discussion today, Mr. Enoch Fung. He is the CEO of the AoF and also the Executive Director for HKIMR. Thank you, Mr. Fung, to the stage. And we're also very happy to have four very esteemed panelists to join us today. So first of all, let me introduce Mr. Paul Moody, Managing Director of Global Partnership and Client Solution of CFA Institute. Joining him is Mr. Carson Lee, Managing Director, Co-Head of APAC, and Deputy Global Head of Government Affairs of AIMA. We also welcome Ms. Jasmine Lee. She's the Managing Director for EY Hong Kong and Macau. And finally, we have Mr. Latman Lee, Professor of Practice in FinTech and ESG of the Hong Kong Polytechnic University. He was board member of the FinTech Association and is currently a council member of Hong Kong IMR Applied Research Council. And thank you very much, panel and moderators. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Brenda, and also a very warm welcome again to all of you. Thank you very much for joining our seminar today. As our Deputy Secretary mentioned earlier, talent is really the primary resource for us to develop ourselves as a financial center. And also the fact that we need to get it right. We need to think through all these talent strategies in a more systematic framework, rather. So it is important that we need to get right. And I think it's an excellent lineup we have here. We have industry associations, a very broad network globally, both in the CFAs and also at the alternative investment space. Also, Jasmine from the corporate perspective, but also as the leading professional services firm, very broad perspective on her client base as well. And then Professor Lemon as well, from Lemon Lee, who actually can give us, I think something mentioned by Giorgio earlier about the pipeline of future talents. So it will be interesting to hear his thoughts on that as well. So Paul, can I start with you? Given the fact that you oversee the global operations for CFA Institute, and also there's 160, I think, CFA societies around the world. So you actually have a great perspective on what's happening globally in terms of the talent landscape, the competition that both Deputy Secretary and also Giorgio mentioned earlier. So any observations from you from a global perspective, the challenges that they face, and also any best practices you can share with us? Thank you.
We have around 200,000 chart holders globally, and we're represented in almost every sort of country around the globe. And one of the things we do is we survey them on a regular basis to try to look at industry trends. And in September 2023, we published the Future State of the Investment Industry, where we'd pulled together a survey across our membership to try and look what the key trends that were going to take place over the next 5 to 10 years. And 4 trends emerged really consistently in every single territory. The first of which is diverging worlds, and as we move to a less globalized world, and that's been driven by geopolitical tensions, it's been driven by inequality, and more demographic disruptions, and that came out as the first point. The second one is sustainable finance, which is very dear to my heart, and I was pleased to see that was the case. And I find this every single meeting I go to, anywhere in the world, this is a topic, it's on the agenda. Everybody wants to talk about green finance, and nowhere is that more dominant actually than here in Hong Kong and greater on mainland China, where I think because of Hong Kong as a bridge to the real economy and the real economy in China, there's huge opportunity as well as the commitments that governments are making. And you think how incredible that is when 5 years ago, not one person would have had that as top of their agenda. So to see that kind of a change happen so quickly, and the next one we've seen very probably obviously is digital transformation. When we did the survey, it was more about sort of data science, and now it's about AI. Every time I go along and I meet new chart holders in different places and get to congratulate them on becoming a chart holder, we have a Q&A session. Guess what the first question is? It's, will I have a job with AI coming out? So it's very relevant to the earlier presentations. And the answer I always tell them is yes, of course, but it will look different as we all have to embrace that technology. And the end of cheap money and what that means for our sector, of course. So our recommendations to firms are first of all the need to upskill, reskill, the comments that the earlier presenters have made in these areas around looking at environmental risk specifically, around looking at how technology is going to affect your industry. We as an organisation have that core to our strategy, how it's going to affect our learners, how is it going to affect education, how is it going to affect our own business. Every single person within, we're only a small organisation, 550 people, we're looking to everyone to upskill around those areas to sort of understand that. And the third sort of recommendation is really to get that greater cognitive diversity by ensuring that organizations have diversity that embed inclusion and equitable human resources into their businesses. We're really pleased with an initiative we've embarked on with Standard Chartered and KPMG in the Greater Bay Area that helps upskill people, because what we saw is a concern around, with the economy not being as strong as before, people from more disadvantaged backgrounds weren't seeing the same opportunities. And so we wanted to work with them to upskill around soft skills and technical skills to make sure that everybody has equal opportunities. And for me, that's what diversity is. It means very different things when you're in different countries. And when you use the term DEI, people jump to conclusions because it's totally different in the States from what it, say, is in China to London. But at the heart of it is about giving equal opportunities and having cognitive diversity to get better decision making. And our recommendation for practitioners is really around this lifetime learning and the upskilling and reskilling. I think the initiative to sponsor people through the green training is really inspirational here in Hong Kong, and to actually fund people, I think it's pioneering and will pay dividends in the future. And really to understand as an individual, what does this technology mean to you? Not everybody needs to. If anyone tells you you're an expert in AI, I don't believe them, because it changes every day. It's not something where we have experts, and it's something we just all need to embrace in what we do every day, in my opinion. But that's a summary for me. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I should mention, thank you very much for traveling all the way from London to speak to us today. And also, just before I go to the next speaker, you will have, I think Brandon mentioned earlier, you feel free to submit your questions through the system. Now, Kershaw, you fly all the way from Singapore to join us today as well, so thank you. Now,
It was a pleasure.
Yes, so obviously, AIMA has been a great supporter for Hong Kong, so thank you for that. And also in the alternative investment space, you have a broad network globally as well. So what do you see from your standpoint?
That's right. AIMA, we represent alternative asset managers, as you alluded to, in over 60 countries and locations. I think from a talent management standpoint, the one thing that's really striking about everyone in this room is that we do have one thing in common. Whatever our standing in life might be, wherever we come from, whichever organization we represent, and that's we're in the people business. Because whether you're in the Academy of Finance, you're AIMA, you're CFA, EY, or Hong Kong Poly University, or you work for a bank, every day when we get to work is about bringing people together, allowing people to network, come together, make a difference. Whether your measure of success is P&L driven or making a difference to the next generation, there's one commonality, and it's to have impact on people. And I feel that as an industry, we don't spend enough time looking at this issue in a holistic way. So I want to congratulate the Academy and HKIMR-CFA Institute. I know you do a lot of work advocating for that, universities as well, and of course EY. EY, the likes of EY, PwC, KPMG, they provide great entry-level jobs to the financial services industry. We all know people who got their start working in a place like that. Now, in terms of your broader question, I'm very happy to report that the big picture shift we're seeing from the hedge fund industry perspective is that we're in a position of net hiring for the first time in many years. The hiring picture was quite static over the last few years. In Hong Kong, we're seeing expansion. More of our members are expanding the operations in Hong Kong, and that's true throughout the Greater Bay Area as well. There are more offices being opened as a way to harvest more talent. Now, we are seeing a few changes, and we can echo some of the transformative shifts that have been mentioned in the report. I think a lot of that is down to a few factors, one of which is definitely driven by technology. Advancements in data analytics, AI, blockchain. So when we look at a typical hedge fund trading floor, those changes is causing big cultural shifts even on the trading floor. By that I mean, instead of the traditional finance-centric hiring kind of background where you go to get someone with a CFA or finance background, can you do financial analysis, can you crunch numbers? We're seeing a more hiring of people with a technology background. So that transforms into even changes at the very granular level. We have hedge fund managers now having to grapple with the fact they're hiring people from a technology developer background, people who usually would have gone to work for Google, but now they work for a hedge fund. Then there will obviously be some cultural shifts. Can you bring a dog to work? Can you allow me to dress down, right? Now we're seeing more flexible dressing. It's all about action-oriented lifestyle. If you visit some of the hedge fund managers' offices, they don't look like a traditional trading floor. They look like an office straight out of Google or Meta. So that's an example of a shift that's changing. And we're also seeing shifts in terms of diversity and inclusion, something that's been very well mentioned. But at the core, diversity and inclusion means you have then to allow people to be more flexible in terms of accommodating a wide range of needs, so you can harvest your net as wide as possible to get talent. So I would just sum it up this way. I'll give you a case study, and I'll wrap it up on that basis. If you look at a Hong Kong-based hedge fund manager, a lot of them are looking at something, doing something new to harvest technology, to give them the edge when it comes to investment decision making. So they might typically look at starting a data analytics team. So to do that, what are some of the talent management considerations? For one, you have to really cast your net wide. Of course, you try to hire in Hong Kong, but to the extent there's a shortage of talent, you have to harvest that from overseas. You might have to be flexible. Some of the talent might say, I may not want to move to Hong Kong immediately. Can I work remotely? So you have to accommodate that lifestyle. You have to look at visa considerations. You have to look at cultural issues. How do you marry someone from overseas locally? But that's something Hong Kong does really well. And that plays really well to Hong Kong's competitive advantage. So I guess to sum up, I'm very happy that we're having this conversation. I just don't think we have this conversation enough. I want to give a shout out to all the HR people in the audience. I know that many of you. Sometimes HR gets seen as just a box-ticking exercise. I say people to people, HR are like performance coaches. You want to bring out the best in everyone on your team. In fact, the value of your organization diminishes after sunset or whatever time your organization finishes work. Because the moment the people walk out of the room, your balance sheet goes to zero, right? Because the value of your organization are human beings on the team, not your trading terminals, not your spreadsheets. So this is an important conversation. Thank you for having AIMA here, and thank you for being part of this. We look forward to expanding that conversation.
Thank you very much. There's a lot that we can build on for later conversation. Jasmine, can I bring you in now? I think you got a great perspective here, given your own firm is also, there's a lot of developments on the talent strategy side, but also your observations to your client base, right? So they are also facing their own challenges as well. Can you give us your perspective?
Sure. First of all, I'm a little bit better. I traveled from Quarry Bay to here. So that's a shorter trip for me. It's excellent. Hong Kong is really good in terms of transportation. Well, anyway, first of all, thank you very much for having me here. Very always exciting to talk about talent challenges right now. And it's very good that I have this chance to really share with all of you some, from the perspective of a professional service firm, as you say. We have our own challenges, on recruiting our own talents, keeping our own talents, and also we see challenges, also headaches, with our clients, especially in financial market, sector. Briefly, a little bit of background. EY is a professional service firm, and in Hong Kong and Macau, which I'm managing in, we have around 3,300 people. And we do have a very tightly knitted together financial service organization, that's what we call, and span across Hong Kong and China. And with around 4,000 something people there. So we serve, a number of different financial institutions, across mainland China and Hong Kong, Macau. So I think, what I want to share is probably take, an employee, in Hong Kong, in EY. Look at it from the employment journey, from them entering, EY. All along, and I guess that will be very also reflective of what our clients or what our financial service people are actually also experiencing, I think, out there. I think I observe from the entry point right now, we do have a lot of challenges in recruiting, really, if you want to say fresh grads. We have discussed a lot, with university professors. A lot of them are actually our students, and our youngsters right now are probably not very interested in just taking up or enrolling a pure accounting degree, or very more plain and simple degree. So that is decreasing, and that is probably more also talked about in the survey. There's a demographic change. So basically, and actually also the university is also having more curriculum of having hybrid subjects. So this is also something that we like. because we really, because of the landscape change, I think we really need people who have to have more sophisticated skills in doing the work. So I think that's one point. And the second of all is we do recruit a lot of what we call mid-career joiners. And that's also challenging because we used to have very simple, like, when we want to employ a particular somebody, we have a job responsibility and a position of something. But now it's quite not easy to do it because we want to employ somebody. That person, he or she, will have to have a mix of skills, especially in the financial service sector. So we want a bit of, maybe accounting thing or maybe technical background, but we also want him or her to have a bit of like ESG, knowledge, or a bit of digital technology knowledge, or the innovative mindset, stuff like that. So it becomes very difficult for us to recruit talent. So I think, that is one of the very big challenge, especially in the financial services sector. That's the entry point. And then second of all, when we want to retain people, then it goes to the survey, which I like really, and it's very encouraging that Hong Kong people is actually very proactive in upgrading, their skill set. So we do see people, in UI, of course we encourage them to upgrade and improve, but we also see them very proactively taking courses, even outside. And the favorite subject of theirs right now is the ESG. So actually, even if they're doing just ordinary factory, ordinary type of audits, they're actually also wanting to get, another degree or part-time doing ESG and acquiring more knowledge on that. In the financial service sector, because that's also very hot on that. Also, some of them are really keen on learning more about, not artificial intelligence, but probably just digital thing, technology thing. I think they are very, very enthusiastic in it. So I do see a lot of our employees are doing this kind of what we call upskilling. I think that's very important. And I see this as a trend. We ourselves also do have training program ourselves. We have what we call EY badges. So on a very flexible way and virtual way, we also encourage our people to take courses that we develop locally to enrich their profile and credentials so that it helps them to get to the market. All right? And that's the time when they are trying to leave the market. And I just want to share with you, we still have turnover. Turnover is a little bit slower, probably because of the slower economy, but we still have normal turnover. But some of those employees, that they are leaving, from UI, I see two trends. One of the trends is they're actually also leaving UI to set up their own firms, entrepreneurs, solution vendors, partnering with, financial institutions, providing service, solutions to them. So I think they're very brave, adventurous, that's good to see. And the other is a real reskilling, because I think they do have quite enough experience that they think, they are probably not catching up enough with what they are possessing right now, knowledge-wise. So I see they are actually wanting to leave the firm, maybe, for after a couple of years, to really do another degree, a master degree, that a lot of our local universities are offering. So I see a lot of these people doing this instead of just joining another financial service institution because of increased compensation or landing at another position that they think are good because they're actually seeing themselves probably not possessing enough adequate knowledge on that. So they are doing reskilling very robustly. That's what I'll see right now. Yep.
Thank you very much. So, Lemon, can I turn to you now? So what's the university doing to equip your students, and that actually give us a perspective into what's actually to come from our future talents. Thank you.
Happy to, and thanks for having me here. I think Hong Kong is very fortunate with a number of world-class universities. And if I look back maybe 30 years ago, so I didn't come from far away, but I studied in Netherlands. At that time, I was always thinking, I want to work either in Hong Kong, London, or New York in a financial center. I think the world definitely is now very different. We are living in a more interconnected world. Both Paul and Kerr were talking about how the world is changing. I think that is also the case for us in the universities. For us, what we're looking at is right now, you can probably imagine universities are very cutthroat, undergrad and grad. Students will go to a different university if your program is not up to speed. And following actually the mega trends that we're seeing, what we're doing is we're adding programming, we're having Python skills, we're having more collaboration with EY, we're having programs where we work with different firms to get people internship and research. to have people have that knowledge. I think what's also interesting to notice in terms of talent attraction and development is, maybe I'm quoting a bio-socialist, Edward Wilson. He said, we actually have Paleolithic emotions, we have medieval institutions, but we have godlike technologies. So are we up to speed to get to what can technology do? For example, just take one example, a lot of our core human behavior is driven by emotions, the likes of the need for social validation, acceptance. What will that mean if I work for an EY? Do I want to be part of a group, even if I work hybrid or remote? It could mean things around our skill sets. How do I deal with that? If I look at a World Economic Survey around the future of jobs from last year, you would be surprised what are organizations looking for their top 10 skills. It's not just AI. AI did grow, but there are also a lot of cognitive skills, self-efficacy skills around how do you actually on the work floor deal with complex problem solving, deal with persons. So I think companies, university, we should also not forget the softer skills, which Dr. Valente also put in a survey. So I think all in all, we're living in interesting times. Universities, we are not in isolation. We need to work with companies in a broader ecosystem to develop the next generation of students, get them that validation, get them the skill sets to thrive in new organizations, whatever that is. So thanks, Enoch.
Great. I wanted to move straight to the questions here because there's a lot of questions about AI, unsurprisingly. So I will just jump right in then, rather than our planned questions, sorry. So there are questions about the impact of AI, particularly Paul. So which are the top 5 jobs will be replaced by AI? And I think I want to loop in Jasmine because I think those are important. So why don't you just give it more thought? Then a question to maybe Kirshen and also Labman. So what should the Hong Kong government do to enhance the AI and data research skills and qualifications of existing finance practitioners to feed the rising need of the hedge fund industry? But I think, guess in general, the asset management industry. I've got the Deputy Secretary here, so your wish list, please. So Paul, can I start with you? And then Jasmine on the jobs to be replaced by AI.
Okay. Mine will be more high level, so I'll pass the work to Jasmine to come up with 5. But I mean, it's obvious that the roles that involve a huge amount of data crunching are no longer going to be needed. The analytics and the people value on that is still required. So you've got analysts now working at the investment banks who will no longer have to get up so early in the morning because all the data crunching of the overnight news has been done for them to put into reports, to summarize that. And so that just makes their job different and sometimes enhances their ability to add value, although, of course, everyone else has got that same competitive advantage. So it doesn't change that. Very interesting that when AI started coming out, a lot of people were predicting it was the end for accountancy. It's been absolutely the opposite. In most markets, so the number of accountancy jobs has sort of increased significantly. So I think trying to predict what jobs will go away is harder, and it's probably another decade till we can really see jobs being replaced, but those menial jobs around much more data analysis. So in every aspect I've seen AI being used, it enhances and changes jobs rather than actually wipes out specific sectors. But maybe I'm just not forward enough looking on that at the moment. So,
Jasmine?
I'm thinking about that.
Okay, should I? Okay, yeah.
No. Can't name.
Yeah, please.
Sure. Just wanted to share something. Can't name 5, but I think I agree. I think the jobs that are more repetitive, like repeating, more mundane, more like sort of like what you call maybe easier job or something like that. More labor-intensive job that the employer is thinking that can cut the cost because they don't see a lot of values there, but things do have to be done. Those kind of jobs, I think, already some of them are replacing by AI, or before, by digital solution or something like that. Not just probably just really, advanced AI. But I think, those will be posts that are that may take up more and more, I guess, in this era.
Sorry, can I follow up on that? How ready is AI then on servicing you, replacing, say the basic auditor stock taking type of?
Oh, you mean the auditor, right? Okay.
Yeah, not just auditors, but in general, you mentioned about the more labor-intensive data crunching part.
To be honest, it depends on. To be honest, it also depends on the company itself.
Okay.
I do see there is a difference though, and the leadership mindset, and I do see huge differences, and different beliefs in AI from really, really top management, like chairman or the CEO. And I think that's very important as well. I just want to say also, whether you want to be really implementing a lot of AI or how responsible you want your AI to be implementing, right, in your organization. That also depends a lot on the leadership, what they are believing in it and how they're going to take it. I do see a huge difference in different industry, first of all, and also even in the same industry, different people. So I do think if you want to, if you are asking me how ready we are, to be honest, I don't think we are very, very ready because as a professional service firm, we have, but we are facing actually having a lot more requests right now from large groups, conglomerates, really wanting us to doing diagnosis of how they can actually implement AI, and to what extent are they actually be ready? And in our eyes, they're not really ready. And the first thing is really we have to have a very, really good chat with their leadership in what they actually want to achieve by using the AI.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry,
can I maybe add to that? I think you talk about a job replacement, but also there's, of course, the job creation aspect of it. I happen to have a research in front of me where definitely, as Jasmine was talking about, clerical work, bank tellers, of course, those where you can probably say a majority of the work can be replaced. But at the same time, on the other side of the spectrum, you have the likes of AI, machine learning specialists, sustainability specialists. We talk about ESG a lot, the fintech engineers. So I think you have to take that in balance. And probably from a policy perspective, I guess, you need to look at how many people are working, what roles, which percentage do we estimate could be taken over by AI, and then invest in the right groups to hopefully tip the balance and have a net job increase due to AI, would be my view.
Yeah.
Just to add.
Question?
Just, I think on AI, is since we're talking about the audit professions, it's quite easy to forget that when slide rules, calculators, and spreadsheets first appeared many decades ago, people predicted the end of the audit bookkeeping profession. But we all know the rest of the story because accountants, consultants move on and evolve. They provide a more higher value-added services, not just simple auditing and bookkeeping. And I see that as an indication of how the world needs to evolve. So it's no longer just high-tech, the technology. You need high-touch, the people skills. So I start out by saying we're in a people business. And I still think we want to be serviced by a human being that has got the right bedside manner, that has got the right technical knowledge. Now, just in terms of context, I thought Hong Kong and Greater China is in a very unique position. Sometimes people forget that Hong Kong is the original gangster. We have Octopus card in the 1990s, way ahead of everyone. And now we have WeChat Pay that works very well across the region. And I think the competitive advantage for Hong Kong when it comes to AI is to focus on Asian languages. A lot of the large language models we see right now are trained in the English language. So the data that we have, Asian languages, different Chinese dialects across the region, Asian languages, that will give us, in Hong Kong and Greater China, the competitive edge. As far as the individual is concerned, I think there's just so much knowledge that's out there on AI, and I think Paul mentioned that. Dr. Giorgio, you mentioned that. It changes by the day. So it's quite hard to get a master's degree in AI, because it's probably outdated once you finalize the syllabus. But I think it is incumbent upon us to know that we are actually in a great environment. Hong Kong and Greater China offers fertile ground for AI advancement, but it's up to us as individuals to keep up with the knowledge and never forget that at the end of the day, we're all human beings. So we need a human touch, and that should not be lost.
And anything specific about the hedge fund industry and the usage of AI or alternative investment or broader traditional asset management industry?
Yes. So we have pioneered a lot of research, the use of generative AI in asset management. And from that global survey, we're finding and hearing from our members in all the 60 countries and locations I mentioned, that a lot of them are using AI initially front of the house So Paul mentioned you could actually crunch the data using data feed from different market sources and feed that into the AI, whatever systems you might be using. You could use AI to optimize the middle office, the back office. But in almost no cases have we heard that jobs are being lost. In fact, what we're hearing is an increase in productivity. So now you can do more with less. Hopefully that is also a message we can send to everyone. I think we want to see AI as a force for good, as a force multiplier. You can keep your own team, but you can do more with what you have.
Yeah, I think, sorry, Tom.
No, just thinking they do it. Obviously, AI's got no morals, and the risk of sort of bad trading, dodgy trading is exaggerated. So there's probably going to be more jobs in compliance and legal monitoring, that side of things.
Yeah, I think it's true. It's amoral in the sense that it's almost like a razor blade, right? You can use it to groom yourself and make yourself look good, or you can use it to slit your wrist. Yeah. It's a double-edged thing. So don't blame the tool. You know, it's up to us human beings to have those controls and safeguards.
So that conversation is very important. So Jasmine was saying the senior management endorsement and the strategy. Exactly. And I think to your point about productivity enhancement, not only that, AI has actually been very impactful in the space of education, right? So they're actually helping to educate the younger generation. They are more well-informed, right? They are a lot more technology savvy through AI. So when they come into the workforce, they are a whole lot more savvy when it comes to the use of technology, which will help enhance productivity. So, but of course, as Paul was saying, we need to really kind of establish the right governance structure and the right risk management measures in place. I want to move on to ESG and sustainability because it's a topic that all of us are very passionate about. In the report, we actually did highlight that, and I think it was mentioned by quite a few of you already, that there is a great demand for people with skills on both the sustainability side and the finance side. So there's a great understanding on climate, also great understanding on finance. You can find talents in each separately, but combined is very difficult, even for a place in Hong Kong, especially given all the initiatives that the Deputy Secretary highlighted. There is still a lot of demand. So, Paul, can I start with you, and then just where you see the trend going globally?
I mean, the trend won't change. As I mentioned before, it's got such momentum now. This started in Europe. We were talking about this for 20 years. Before I joined the CFA, I worked in asset management for 22 years. And at the start of my career, I actually launched the ESG fund. So we're seen as very niche and specialist and just for a very small number of investors. As you saw regulations change and greater awareness of sort of issues and concern around sort of environmental issues grow, that became much more mainstream. And Europe was probably ahead of the curve at the start of that in a lot of regulations. Then actually this market and Singapore and Australia, as other markets, rapidly caught up over time. And actually core to being successful in this is actually knowing what you're doing. And that's why I really applaud the initiative around the capacity building that Ms. Chen talked about earlier, because one of the challenges I had working in this industry, and the last thing I did before I moved over to CFA, was to plot the pathways to net zero for the UK's largest insurer. At the time, there was a lack of knowledge of how to do that. We were talking about Scope 1 and Scope 2, and this is only 3 years ago. Scope 3 was just something slightly abstract where you had no data around it. You were trying to look at future carbon emissions, and there was no methodology how to do that, let alone factor in the fact that your asset allocation was going to change over time as your liabilities sort of started to mature. And then you had to think, what's the motivation for doing this? Because your motivation is very different for different investors. Ultra-high net worth could be doing this for altruistic reasons and sort of concern about the world they're going to leave for their children. A sovereign wealth could be doing it because of their reputation and concern how to be perceived there. But us as an insurer, we wanted to remain competitive compared to all the other insurers in Europe. And so actually the task I was given by the CEO is to come out with a more ambitious pathway to net zero without really knowing how we were going to do that. So sort of interesting times. Then you had to think about the constraints you have as an insurer in terms of your capital constraints, your solvency constraints, etc., and how that all married through. And one of the big challenges is, I was working with a group of people, and I always remember one of the guys who joined as a graduate, he helped put some PowerPoint slides for me together. That's all he did. And he got a job as an ESG expert at one of the other major asset houses, because the person who was hiring didn't know what he was hiring, but he could just talk about it slightly more authoritatively than the other person. Now, that wouldn't happen now because the industry has matured a lot. But what I've found is you so rapidly get out of date in this space. If I was to try to do this now, I'd be totally out of date. I started studying, we just launched the Climate Valuation and Risk certificate. I thought, this will be easy, I'll just take it, and yeah, I should actually do it to see what the client experience is. And I found I'm actually learning an enormous amount because there's been so much advancement, and particularly in this region, particularly in China, markets such as that. So this need to upskill is really important. And the other point is about creating communities and networks and working together. When you're looking to solve some of the world's biggest challenges around climate change, is what you're doing, really, when you're looking at net zero. It's not about having a competitive edge. It's about sharing that thought leadership and research and educating people so that we can do a better job along this journey. And it's by engaging with people with corporates to show the benefits of doing this. It's about engaging with investors to see the benefits that actually strong investment returns and controlling your transition risk, controlling your physical risk are all symbiotic. They're not contradictory, and that you can look at those two together and be really clear what it is you're trying to achieve and why you're doing that. And the other piece of advice is really to look at regulations that are emerging, because what happens in one jurisdiction tends to follow in others, unless you're in the US, of course. So the US has got a slightly different perspective on these issues to the rest of the world, but the rest of the world seems to be largely united.
Great, thank you. Kirsha?
I think the issues around ESG, responsible investments, sustainability, whatever you want to call them, is or climate change, transitional planning, moving towards net zero, I think is a great issue of our day. It's going to impact us and our future generations. I would say that a lot of hedge fund managers are now responding to this, not just from an altruistic standpoint, or because it's a moral imperative, or maybe, as Paul alluded to, it's good for business from a valuation investment standpoint. But it's also because, from an HR perspective, we need to be on top of this. And I'll give you an example. We had an event in our industry where a lot of people of our generation, maybe older, were at a meeting. And we had some younger members of the community asking openly, why are we using plastic bottles at this event? And it really set many of us thinking that, this is a real issue, because you're going to attract younger people. Yeah. They are going to look at the green credentials of your organization. They're going to ask you, how many air miles are your senior executives chalking out flying around the world? You're going to start having a scorecard or report card to address all these issues. So I guess my point is, getting on top of the agenda is good for business, is good for the planet, and more importantly, is also, for the relevance of today's conversation, attracting talent. So we need to be on top of this. So again, I think it's an issue that's here to stay. I guess the only point I'll make, my final point on this is, in Asia, we are less afflicted by the politics associated with ESG. I know in UK, AIMA has stopped using the label ESG. We brand it as responsible investments, sustainable investments or something. But I'm glad to report, at least here in Asia, we're more pragmatic, right? We just get our heads down, cope with the changes, the implementation around that.
Jasmine, on ESG?
Yeah, well, what I want to share is, I guess probably in reality, I do think it's actually quite hard to have, a lot of cases where you have a person, you have people who are like, they are graduated from environmental science, the absolute scientist who knows how to decarbonize. And at the same time, coincidentally, they also knows perfectly this disclosure standard, being an accountant. I think that's of course a very good combination, but that's really difficult to achieve, right? So I guess, for example, when a financial service institution or a company, if they want to really do a decarbonization thing and really do green thing for themselves, they really have to have that type of expert, right? in their companies, probably have an environmental science degree or other degree to do the decarbonization for them. But at the same time, you will have to have, other, people who can do, for example, for the bank, we have a modeler to do Scope 3, calculate Scope 3 emission for the bank. So they're actually modeler. They're not graduated from environmental science. They don't know anything about that, but they do the modeling for the bank, right? And then, when we step in and to do the verification, validation, or assurance, we have to sign off laha. But of course, we probably don't know exactly, how to do those things, and whether that amount of decarbonization, reduced carbon is correct or not. We'll have to have the specialist. And I guess those specialists will be from, those degree that they graduated from, who really know those stuff. So I think, though, in all, the summary is probably a number of different positions will have to be instilled in the organization to make sure that it's actually functioning. And one of the things that we are trying to do right now, and I do imagine is probably we have a lot of collaboration also with Polytechnic and also other universities, is there are actually positions, like, for example, I can say risk management or compliance people. Or we say the chief sustainability officer. I do think they should have a better mix of knowledge that they will have to have. Yeah. And I guess it's also important, see, Latman, whether you agree or not, is the feedback from the companies, the feedback from the corporate world. What exactly are they needing? In terms, in order to be able to have that be achievable, in terms of having the disclosure correctly, but also be able to do the decarbonization, in and out, what kind of expertise are we needing? And in the medium to long term, I do know Hong Kong government and also the education sector will have to build up that curriculum, whether it be hybrid or any other different new curriculum or new degree. We will have to have it, for Hong Kong. Yeah.
Amen.
I guess I'm happy to share that because of all that response, we do have a program where we have a joint venture between environmental engineering and the business school, where students can basically cherry pick what they want based on what they want to do in their current or new organization. I mean, if I look at the role of the chief sustainability officer, it really depends on where you are, where your industry is in the journey, where your company is in the journey, and then based on that, knowing the material risk and issues, you can basically sort of reverse engineer, define your curriculum. For example, as an investor, if you're a PNC, you're deciding which project get covered. You're also an investor. You have investment skills. So I think it's building that together. So my I guess, suggestion also to the government would be to provide more credibility around those different pathways of careers, so that students will know, if I invest this time and money on that I will have a higher likelihood of having a good career. I guess broad also for Hong Kong, having so many insurers, asset managers, banks. I was talking with the Deputy Secretary about it as well. Hong Kong, green, sustainable, but also transition finance as an opportunity. And it will bring opportunities for consultants around transition planning, helping organizations to do what is fit for purpose for them. Not everyone needs to be the most pioneer, but you need to at least know, what can I do to move the needle in this journey to a lower carbon economy? And green tech plays a role as well. Yeah,
transition finance is a big topic, a big need here. We've got only a few minutes left. I do want to cover the DEI angle, the diversity, equity, and inclusion. And Paul, you alluded to a bit earlier. I want to bring you in, and then maybe Jasmine as well, if you have any thoughts on DEI. So what do you think the industry should be aware of? And I guess, where is it going from a European perspective? And then anything you observe here in this constituent in Asia?
Yeah, one of the challenges is DEI is not, first of all, it's one of those terms like ESG that can bring up a bit of emotional response. Yeah. And I think it can in this region as well, because people don't like the fact you might be imposing a model from the US or the UK or wherever onto a different market with different characteristics. At the heart of it, though, when you talk about sort of equity and inclusion, I don't see any pushback. So we developed some DEI codes, which we launched first in the US and Canada, and the adoption has pretty much, the majority of the large asset managers have adopted those. We had to adapt those to the UK market, and that's starting to get up. And then the next market we're focusing on is Singapore. But sort of rolling that out. But you can't, say it means very different things, but at the heart of it, to me, it is about having that cognitive diversity. You get better thinking when you've got a mixture of gender backgrounds, approaches to this. And this is why, as referenced before, the initiatives we've been doing in China come from a quite different perspective. It's those people who were not from the wealthy families, who hadn't gone to the very top universities, who are feeling, even if I work hard, there aren't opportunities for me. And it's sort of really proud to be engaged with those couple of organisations, KPMG and Standard Chartered, who said, look, we'll use our CSR budget here and partner with you to develop those soft skills, to work with us on some of the technical skills, to provide some internships. And people are offering mentoring, people are offering support from the societies, and it just gave people hope. What we actually said we were doing, we were selling hope on that initiative, which was hope for anybody, wherever you came from, that you've got the same opportunities. And that, to me, is all DEI is about.
Okay, Jasmine, one last word on DEI or anything?
Sure, 48, 46, okay. DEI. First of all, gender. I think we're not doing too bad, to be honest, in Hong Kong, especially in financial service industry. And even with UI, we're doing quite well, I guess, for gender, female participation. Personally, I do think I want to see more and more women, if you want to say, in the technology side, probably, and we're also doing Women in Technology group ourselves to really empower and support them. With the STEM, degree getting more and more popular, I do see there is hope, more females getting into this field of science and technology, that sort of thing. That would be good. I think it is actually really. I wouldn't say rare, but less common to probably less chance to see female gender in technology area. In terms of diversity, I do want to say just one more is do encourage really companies should have boards, with members who are actually diverse in background. What I mean is by diverse is really having diverse knowledge and also experience. I guess that's why I want to say diversity instead of maybe other more societal sort of diversity. But really a huge range of a wider range of resources, with different backgrounds, expertise, and the way of seeing things. That's what I think. That's what I define as the diversity in the board, which will be beneficial.
Great, thanks very much. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have. I want to thank, first of all, CFA Institute for collaborating with us on the report, and also with AIMA and CFA Institute for co-hosting this event. It was a great conversation. I hope you all enjoyed it. Thank you very much, and I pass the floor back to Brenda. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This is such an insightful panel discussion. Let's give a big hand again to the panel. And I really enjoyed the discussion. That is a very wide perspective from the AI, from climate, and even to the DEI discussion. So I believe that these conversations can continue even after this event. And I feel like this is a closing of today's event. I want to particularly thank all of you for joining us today. It's online and also in person. And your contribution and your engagements will make this even a much better discussions and also the engagement moving forward. And I look forward to seeing you again in the future events organized by all of us here. Thank you very much, and thank you, the panel. Thank you.